Welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton, and on this episode, we'll be talking about the Tennessee Titans, their all-season, and the upcoming draft. And I have someone that definitely watches the Titans very, very closely, has a keen eye on them. That would be ESPN.com's Turron Davenport. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Going great, going great. Now, before we get into that, of course, I do have to get off your chest moment that I always have for every episode. And in this episode, of course, I want to keep it Titan-centric. I'm going to talk about Ran Carthon. Now, Ran Carthon, to me, he has had a great offseason in terms of revamping the roster for the Tennessee Titans. However, of course, there will always be the detractors of Ran Carthon. The one thing I want to kind of point out is just like, hey, there's going to be some people that are just not ever going to be happy with anything he does from whatever reason they have, whether it be they don't like him, they don't like what he looks like, whatever. Could be any of those different reasons. And for that, of course, I want to kind of talk to myself to be like, okay, just let those people be. I know Rand's cooking. I know Rand's done a great job this offseason. Don't need those people to be like, okay, cool. He did this, he did that, and to actually give him validation because I believe he knows what the job he's doing, and we all know the job that he's doing. So, hey, just want to kind of just say that to all those that get upset, angry with people that kind of come at Rand. Hey, they're gonna be who they are. Gotta let it go. And I'm talking to myself too, because sometimes I get frustrated and mad. But hey, I had to say a little something. You got anything you want to add, Teron?
No, I mean, look, sometimes it's never going to be good enough for some people, and that's just the way it is. And I don't like when it gets a little too venomous, where people, get personal, they question his intelligence, qualifications, and stuff like that. But it is what it is. I think, there's still a lot of work to be done on the roster, but this was a project that needed a lot of work. So took some good steps, and we'll see how things continue to develop.
Right. So kind of get to some of the things that he did do this off season that, of course, the free agency. One of the main focuses, of course, was the offensive line. And, of course, they bring in Denver offensive lineman, Lloyd Cushenberry. I mean, you definitely needed an upgrade there at center. I mean, what can you just say about just the ability of Rand to kind of, make that happen? And just the words of Lloyd when he was talking in terms of the interview, wanted to work with Bill Callahan and, I guess, get the best out of himself.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he wanted to do, work with Bill Callahan. He loved the details that Callahan spoke to him about. And he said, because I asked him about similarities between Callahan and Mike Munchak, who obviously Titans fans are very familiar with. And he said it was just that, how detailed they were, how specific they were. So it's something that he feels is going to be a challenge. He's embracing the opportunity to anchor this offensive line. He, Ran Carthon and Chad Breaker, you can't forget him. Anthony Robinson, Vin Marino, who never gets credit, but he's the one that puts these contracts together. Those guys did a really good job of identifying the target they wanted and making sure that they did what they had to do to get him there. And I think you look at Lloyd Cushenberry, he's the highest paid center in the league, and they made him that for a reason, because they want him to be the one that holds it down on this offensive line. There's nothing more important than protecting the pocket from the interior. And that's something that a lot of people who question the Titans drafting Peter Skoronski last year, they don't really understand that part of it, because a guard, center, guard trio is just as important as the bookend tackles, because we got that edge rusher coming off the edge and the tackle is washing him down. A part of washing him down is allowing the quarterback to have space to step up in the pocket as well to help out on the outside. And you can't step up and climb the pocket and throw the ball down the field if that interior is not being secured. So Cushenberry is a big-time signing from that perspective. That was an area where Aaron Brewer had room for improvement, and this team improved that themselves by allowing Brewer to walk and Cushenberry to come in.
Yeah, for those that aren't aware, Brewer signed with the Miami Dolphins, so he's now a member of the Miami Dolphins. And Lloyd Cushenberry, I definitely look forward to seeing what all he's able to do in that interior, that offensive line. Another guy that they brought in was Sadiq Charles. They brought him in from the Washington Commanders. Now, if I'm correct, he's going to be competing for the guard spot. Am I correct there, or is there any other spots he's going to be looked at?
Yeah, I mean, primarily right guard. He may serve as a swing lineman, but he was one of those guys where the injuries just continued to pile up for him. Every time they seemed like he would turn the corner, an injury would pop up. And that was really the situation there. Washington, they didn't let him go for lack of skill. It was more or less just lack of availability, which is the biggest upbuild.
Right, right. And of course, overall, just with those two additions, I mean, what do you think just what they've done up front in terms of the offensive line just with those two additions there?
I mean, there's still room for improvement. The left tackle situation is very much unsettled. Right tackle looks like it's going to be Jaden Duncan and Nicholas Petit-Ferrer duking it out for that position. So we'll see what happens there. But, I mean, they got to get a left tackle, whether it's first round, second round, third round. They have to get a left tackle.
Yeah, definitely. And, of course, we're going to get in that a little bit later when it comes to the draft. And I got a nickname for one of your favorite players, Xavier Legette, man. I don't know if you heard it yet, but I got a nickname for him. But let's see. Of course, the biggest one of the biggest rumblings in the offseason, of course, Calvin Ridley. Of course, it was rumored between New England and Jacksonville for him to go back there to Jacksonville. The funny thing about the New England thing, I thought is that New England was, I guess, trying to throw money at him, but it seemed like he didn't want to go there. So I'm like, okay, it's almost like you're chasing the girl that doesn't want you. But he eventually ended up here in Nashville with the Tennessee Titans. At one point, did you kind of know it was the Tennessee Titans that were involved in this and that potentially he could land here?
Well, I knew they were involved early. That's one of the things that I knew. But the price got to they shied away from the price, and then they just said, you know what, let's make it happen. And that's pretty much how it worked out. As Ridley continued to sit on the market, he obviously, as he mentioned, was going to wait a bit for Jacksonville, so that way that third round pick it turned into a second round pick after that Wednesday. If he signed before that Wednesday, rather. So once it got close to that, it was really just a matter of just a heavy recruiting. And he and Rand got on the phone and they had a conversation, and it was one of those ones where real recognizes real. And he decided that Tennessee was the place that he was going to be. And he mentioned it in the press conference because he liked the way that they were going to treat him. I don't know what happened in Jacksonville, but something didn't happen to his satisfaction. And he decided to go to the Titans. Now, he did admit that he wanted to go back there. And I can understand that from a comfortability standpoint, knowing your quarterback, being in that scheme. But the other thing that he liked about coming to Tennessee is the opportunities that he's going to get. And obviously, the familiarity that he had with Nick Holmes, who was the pass game coordinator there in Jacksonville, and is obviously the OC here.
Yeah, speaking of opportunities, I would say that Brian Callahan is definitely one that talks about versatility and things like that in terms of the offense, and it's going to be it's being billed as being more of a pass first offense in some senses. Does that mean that Calvin Ridley is probably going to be moving around, whether it be outside, in the slot, things like that as well? We could see different pieces and different places as well, depending upon matchups and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, they've already said that. They're going to move him around. It's something that Jacksonville didn't do much of. I don't know why, but Ridley has always been, except for that year that he played in Jacksonville, a guy who you could move across the formation. He could work from the slot, left, right, all of that. So I'm not sure why they didn't do that, but Brian Callahan said that that's something that they're going to do. And he even mentioned having that freedom to be moved around more in the press conference. So you definitely have that there. And it is going to be a pass-first offense. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be the more modern style of offense that you're seeing now. But I think Callahan, he made it clear, right? He said, when it's time to run the football, they're going to run the football. Don't get it twisted. So you definitely will have – see, nowadays balance is like 60-40, right? It's not 50-50. And even 60-40 is heavy. It's 70-30. You see a lot of that as far as how the touches are distributed.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to switch over to the defensive side of the ball. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick commercial break on Tour the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton.
EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash are two of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, you can get 10% off on these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get these the EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash.
All right, and we are back. Thanks again to EBO Beard Butter for being a sponsor of Touring the AFC South, and of course, go get that those products, and of course. Just look up EBO Beard Butter on Etsy. Of course, promo code MPAFC10. Now, returning back to the program, we're going to talk about the defensive side. Now, of course, there was a big signing there, or big trade, I should say, in L'Jarius Sneed, bringing him from Kansas City. Now, of course, first there were some rumblings talking about Indianapolis Colts and couldn't come together with a deal and things like that. But how involved early were the Tennessee Titans in trying to get L'Jarius Sneed here in two-tone blue?
Yeah, I mean, they wanted him the whole time. It was just a matter of getting that price to come to where it was within striking distance for them. So I would say throughout the whole process, they've been one of the teams that has been in the mix.
Gotcha. What was one of the kind of the sticking points there in terms of, was the guaranteed money, the years, or do you know any of those?
No, it was not getting rid of a pick this year. Okay. They did not want to do that. They have what, 7 picks, being able to trade the next year's third, which is equivalent to a fourth this year, and then also flipping picks. They were able to move up 30 spots. The Chiefs were in the 7th round. So it's a good trade. It's one where I don't think the Titans fleece the Chiefs or anything like that, because, again, it's a 4th round pick that they got, and they flip picks. So it's almost like moving up a full round, because you're talking about 30 spots. So I think they were able to get a good deal, the Chiefs, that is, as well as the Titans. Obviously, they're getting a player that they wanted and a guy that they identified as someone that could be a part of the culture change. And the Chiefs are able to get rid of some cap space, right? Now you got $19 million freed up. And it was one of those things where I firmly believe that as they were going down the stretch, they were bouncing back and forth. Okay, are you going to keep Chris Jones or L'Jarius Sneed? And I think it really came down to whoever signed their deal first. That's really, in my opinion, what it came down to. But you also have to look at their ability to develop corners. They've done a good job in doing that. I mean, Trent McDuffie is one of the best corners in the league, right alongside L'Jarius Sneed. You look at Josh Williams, he was a 5th round pick. There's plenty of guys. I mean, Sneed there were 14 corners selected before Sneed. So it just lets you know that they're able to find diamonds in the rough. And there's some good corners coming out this year too.
Right. And, as far as the things I've seen from him on the field, the toughness, he competes, in every single play he competes. What all do you see him bringing in terms of just all the different things that he brings to the table for the Titans?
Well, he brings versatility. He can line up anywhere, and he's a true cat coverage corner. It doesn't matter if Christian Kirk lines up at left, on the left side, on the right side, in the slot. He could travel everywhere with him and be just as effective. And then he also brings, because this is a team, just because of how the market has fallen into place, they're strong from the back to the front, right? Chidobe, Awuzie, Amani Hooker's still there, Elijah Molden, but more importantly, Awuzie and Sneed. So they're going to rely upon their cover people, Roger McCreary. The cover guys are going to have to cover and make plays take longer to happen to a lot of guys up front to get home. And I think you look at a guy like Snead, how disruptive he is at the line of scrimmage, eliminating the timing, destroying the timing of passing plays, making the receiver be taken out of the picture, whereas the quarterback, he drops back and he sees chatter on this side. He's moving away. So now he has to go to his next progression. It gives the guys up front more time to go home. So the way Snead plays is going to help the pass rush. And then you also look at what no one is really talking about is how good of a blitzer he is. He's accumulated, he had 3.5 sacks. He's a guy that they're able to send off the edge, whether it be on a true corner blitz or blitzing off the nickel. That's something that he brings to the table as well. He's aggressive throughout the route. He welcomes the physicality in the run game. Only question is the knee. And that's something that I guess we're going to have to see how they manage it as it goes along. Apparently, that's what pulled, I think it was the Vikings, pulled them out of the running. I feel if he played every game last year and he played more snaps than pretty much all of the DBs, I don't think that should be an issue, but hey, we'll see.
Right. And you mentioned him, Chidobe Awuzie. I'm hopefully I got that right. I've been practicing a few times, but yeah, definitely with his addition, now he slots into the basically cornerback too, essentially. So can you describe just his fit with this defense now that Snead's here? Now he kind of fits into like the secondary role as like the second corner.
Yeah, I don't really think they're going to get into too much corner 1 and corner 2 stuff. They're just going to play ball, but he's a physical corner. He's always in phase. He's not going to get you a lot of interceptions, but he is a guy that rarely gets beat. He loves coming up and supporting against the run, and he's one of those guys that's just a solid player. So I think it was a really good signing in getting him, and he's a part of that culture change that they're looking to have. He stood up there and said that's what he embraced, being somebody who's relied upon to do that.
Right. And it doesn't hurt that his former coach is here as well, so that he's familiar with. Definitely. One other question I do have, you mentioned with Snead and the knee, now with Chidobe Awuzie, of course the injury concerns of the past. Some people have talked about that. Do you see that as much of a concern or no?
Everybody gets hurt, but he's now a year removed from the severe injury. Last year he had, I believe it was the back, a little bit of issue there, but I don't think that there's a concern for injury with him. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I do want to get into one of the misses that happened. Of course, you talked about it on your podcast, which, of course, if you haven't listened to Talking with TD, I want to suggest that you go ahead, go to whatever listening device you are listening, place you listen, go ahead and subscribe, because you're going to get quality information and just quality football talk from Turron Davenport. But on your show, you did mention DJ Reader. Now, they were in the running for DJ Reader, and it just didn't happen. Was it the years, money, or just the connection didn't happen?
No, it was none of that. Everything was fine. It was just he went on a visit to Detroit. Detroit is a program that is really on the up and up. They have the money to spend. They have a really good coach in Terrell Williams, and it matched up that way. It wasn't a matter of anything the Titans didn't do right or wrong, rather. It just sometimes a guy signs before he gets to you, and that's basically what happened.
Gotcha. So, of course, they brought in Sebastian Day, I believe, from the 49ers. So
yeah,
they brought
Sebastian Joseph Day. Yeah.
Joseph Day, yeah. Sorry, butchered his name, but got Chidobe's name right. How about that? But of course, another guy that the Titans were mentioned with was Jerome Baker as well. I know that one didn't happen. He ended up with the Seahawks. I don't know necessarily how that one unfolded or if anything happened there. Do you have any kind of information as to how that one unfolded, why that one potentially didn't happen?
Well, I know I think his deal was $6.5 or $7 million. And I don't think that's where the Titans wanted to be. And it it was also around the time. I'm not saying Jack Gibbons is a replacement for him or anything like that, but they did tender him. And you still have Otis Reese, the fourth on the roster. And they've talked, well, Brian Callahan has talked about drafted guys. So, you know, you got Cedric Gay, you got Jordan McGee. You know, they were at Temple's Pro Day. There's guys. I mean, Jeremiah Trotter. I don't know that I would have a rookie come in and be the one to have that green dot, but I would imagine they'll draft a linebacker, you know, fourth, fifth, somewhere in that round.
All right. Well, you kind of dove into where I'm going to dive into next. We're going to talk a little draft, but first we have one more commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little Titans draft, and it's gotten a little interesting around that 7th pick. Of course, that and more on Touring the AFC South. We're your host, Mike Patton.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back on Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. And of course, there's been some talk about the draft when it comes to the Tennessee Titans. They have the 7th overall pick. And of course, many have them slotted to take Alt out of Notre Dame. However, a little bit of a wrench is probably going to be thrown into that plan because of the talk of Mr. Jim Harbaugh, who is the coach of the Chargers. Talked about the line and, you know, them being just the center of it all, things like that. So many think that Alt could go to the Chargers. Now, I wanted to ask, of course, you know, do you think that's real that he's going to potentially end up there in terms of being with the Chargers?
I mean, the potential is there for sure. You look at what he's done in the past as far as dedication to the offensive line and to running the football. He's always been one to protect quarterbacks. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is an offensive lineman at the pick. I don't know for sure that it'd be Alt. So if they take Alt, they're going to have to flip him to a right tackle. I've seen teams do it in the past. You know, the 49ers did it with Anthony Davis out of Rutgers. The Eagles did it with Lane Johnson when he was coming out of Oklahoma. So that's just the name of a few. Those were both first-round picks. But I think J.C. Latham is a guy that definitely needs to be considered there at 5 also. I think he could very much be in the mix for the Chargers.
Okay. So I'm going to paint the scenario. So say the Chargers take Alt with their pick. Well, how does that affect the Titans? Do they still look at an offensive lineman, or do you see them potentially going at maybe one of the wide receivers that may potentially fall to them?
Well, I mean, it depends on who's there. Like we're just like, I don't know what receivers are there. You know, I think that plays into a lot of it. I mean, obviously, if there's a Marvin Harrison Jr. there, that's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of consideration because that's someone that never should have fallen to them. So yeah, but I mean, there's also the trade back option. Olu Fashanu is another one that could be an option at 7. I think that if I think off the bat, trade back is going to be the first thing they're looking for, but I don't think it's going to be something that they have fully in place until right around pick 5. I think that's when it'll be fully in place. Okay, look, we have a certain 2 guys. If those guys are we have a certain guy. If that guy's not there, you got the trade. I think that's how it's going to be in play.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I kind of, you know, I have that kind of thought, too. I was thinking more of a trade back would be a good option. Of course, you know, if Malik Neighbors or a Marvin Harrison Jr. is there, of course, things get really, really interesting at that point. Of course, let's say the Titans don't draft. They end up drafting Alt. Let's just say they end up drafting Alt, but of course, they still need more help at the wide receiver position. I'm going to bring up a guy that Xavier Legette, aka Country Grammar. That's what I like to call him, Country Grammar. So what if Mr. Country Grammar is available? Maybe a second round pick. Do you think they jump to get him there, or do you think more of the other positions that they need to fill take precedent over that?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a hypothetical. You don't know who else is available at the time or what. If he's on the board at 38, he'll get consideration because he's one of those what you call 50 first round picks. So there's always 50 guys that everybody is saying, hey, there's no way he's not in the first round. And then you're sitting in the second round, and guess who's there? One of those 50. So you look at him, you look at Darius Robinson, you look at Chris Braswell. I mean, these are all guys that in the second round could be there staring them right in the face. And it's like, okay. And then you could also have the trade back option because rest assured, they're going to want to generate somehow a third round pick, another top 100. They have 2 picks in the top 100. It's tough, right? So they could trade back, right, and maybe get a guy like Chris Braswell a little bit later in the second, and then have that third round pick and go for someone like a Javon Baker. Now you're getting up. I'm not saying Baker's as good as Legette, but I personally would rather have Braswell and Baker over Legette. And Legette is a guy that I've been talking about since October. As somebody that is an outstanding prospect. So that's just the way I look at it. I think again they're going to look to generate more picks.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And of course, another guy I want to mention too is the linebacker out of North Carolina State. That's Peyton Wilson, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I dig his game. I think that guy, just to listen to him talk and just things like that, I'm like, okay, this guy could fit as an inside linebacker for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I mean, he's a first-round prospect, honestly, but he's one of those top 50. But I think he's going to be available. There are health issues, the injuries. That's something that there's some teams that may not even touch him because of that. So, yeah, he's a good player. He's a playmaker. He's he can cover for you in space. He's gifted physically, athletically. He comes down and he'll wrap up and bring the man down. He's an all-around outstanding backer, but the health is a question.
Gotcha. It'll be interesting to see what the Titans do in the draft. Of course, we talked about the free agency as well, but there's only one thing left to do, and that's the game. 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice. Turron Davenport, are you ready?
Let's go.
All right. We got 2 songs, 2 rap songs. We got Don't Sweat the Technique or Paid in Full. Which song would you take?
I like Don't Sweat the Technique. I like the drum line, the bass line in that. So give me that.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, it's two songs that's really, hey, you can't lose with either one. Spring or fall in Nashville, which one do you enjoy more?
What is it?
Spring or fall in Nashville, which one do you enjoy more?
Oh, I like the spring because I like when the weather's starting to, like, we're getting out of the cold weather and into the nice weather, and it just everything is, I like the spring.
Gotcha. Okay. New Jack City or Boys in the Hood? Both movies came out in 1991. Which movie are you taking?
I'll probably go New Jack City. Boy, that's tough, but yeah, I'll go New Jack City. Because that's East Coast. So I'll stick with my coast over the West Coast. Although I love the West Coast, don't get it twisted. But yeah, no, I like the story in New Jack City too. It's both stories are dope, but I just like the way the business aspect of how Nino took over the Carter and did all that. Yeah, so I'll go there.
Right. I mean, of course, New Jack City now to this day still has, a lot of people that weren't probably born when this movie is out. They still has an effect there in terms of people that listen to Lil Wayne, the Carter, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, parallels there. Of course, 2 Mets players, though they played for the Mets at one point in time. Darryl Strawberry or Doc Gooden? Which one did you enjoy in the Mets uniform more?
Yeah, I have to go Daryl because I never saw Doc play in person. Every time we'll go to Mets games, we'll miss his when he was pitching. But a couple of weeks I'll be up there at Citi Field to see Doc's jersey retirement. That's April 14th, and then June 1st, Strawberries will be retired. But Strawberry, if I had to pick one athlete all time, that's my favorite athlete ever. Football players, Andre Reed, basketball, Dominique Wilkins, Bernard King, and Patrick Ewing. It's Daryl over everybody for me. College, Carmelo Anthony, it's Daryl over everybody.
All right. And then the last one, Houston or Indianapolis, which city do you enjoy visiting more?
I love Indianapolis, man. I love to go to St. Elmo's. And it's just like I have a set routine. Not combine, you just kind of go. But when the Titans are playing the Colts, it's always the same thing, man. Get in, relax a little bit, watch some college football, go to St. Elmo's, get the shrimp cocktail, a ribeye, and then go around the corner to Burn, the cigar bar. It's just everything is right there. You don't have to rent a car. You just Uber in. I love walkable cities. But don't get it twisted. Houston is fun. It's exciting. But yeah, give me Indianapolis over Houston.
All right. It's 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice. You are off the hot seat. Thank you again, Turron, for coming on. If you can, tell everyone where they can find you on social media if they haven't found you already. And, of course, tell them about your show, of course, Talking with TD. Of course, you and Chris Sanders, of course, the end of the story time, man, it always has me rolling like every episode.
Yeah, we have a good time. You can check it out on Twitter at T Davenport _NFL. Talking with TD on Google, Spotify, iTunes, all of that. Definitely Bubba else, ESPN.com. Right, you can get all the Titans stuff on there.
All right. Thank you again for coming on. Of course, I'm your host, Mike Patton. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Mike Patton82. That's MikePatton 82 on the artist formerly known as Twitter. And of course, you can find me on Instagram and Threads at that's THA, not THE, _general _MP. Of course, touring the AFC South on all listening platforms, as well as YouTube as well. And I want to thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this episode of Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. We're out. Peace.